Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the second episode of Chapter Corner. Uh, my name is Dewey Conway. I am half of a writing duo, myself and Bill Adams, and we have written a book for middle grade called The Tenacious Tale of Tanna the Tendersword. It's this one right here. And last week we started with our first ever chapter corner where authors are um, narrating chapters from their books and starting with us. And so tonight we're going to be reading chapters 2 and 3. And for those that maybe didn't come the last time or missed out or haven't had a chance to watch the recording, I'm going to give a little recap of what happened. So last time in chapter 1 of the Tenacious Tale of Tanna the Tendersword, we're introduced to our two main characters, Galdefort Quillpen, a chronicler in training, and Tanna the Tendersword, a champion in training. And Tanna has chosen an out-of-the-way town named Appin's Way, which just happens to be a pig farming town. Kind of dirty. Lots of pigs, lots of chores, but not really a quest to be seen. And so by the end of the chapter, much to Galdefort's chagrin, she does find a quest, or rather a quest request from one old lady sage who tells her that she needs to find Wink the Wildcrafter. And that's the person that will have her real quest. So Tanna's super excited. Old Lady Sage says, you need to find a guide, or the guide will find you and lead the way. He'll lead the way. And so Tanna's super excited, runs away, heading back to the Crackpot Inn, which we'll talk about tonight, and leaves Gallifort dumbfounded and having experienced a strange disappearance from Old Lady Sage. She just poofs into thin air. So tonight is chapter 2, which picks right up after chapter 1. And based on the poll that I put on Twitter, we're also doing chapter 3 tonight. So hope you stay in for the long run. If you don't, I will bookmark where chapter 3 begins. Once the recording's over, you can come back and catch it next time. But as far as the chat goes, for those who might be in the chat, who might be talking with each other, I won't have time to really answer anything while I'm reading, but I will try to get to it once I am done with the chapter. Just kind of peek in. Maybe somebody else is in the chat that can answer some things. I see you, Tim. Hello, Tim. How are you? All righty. So we're going to go ahead and get started with chapter 2, The Shadowy Fog Blight. Here we go. Besides a few village stragglers scurrying to bring their wares and goods in for the night, the cobbled streets of Appin's Way were mostly empty. The sun just touched the tip of the horizon, and Galdefort was still staring dumbly at the coin in his hand. "Be brave, young chronicler," she says. "Bah! Who is she to tell me that?" Galdefort undid his turtle-shell pack and laid it on the grubby ground. A chronicler's pack was, in fact, made from a seashell that happens to look like a turtle shell. The old monks at the Sudastic Monastery, the place where he and his Aunt Elda had grown up, always found the abandoned shells near the sea moss that grew on the shores under the monastery. The same moss was used to make the special parchment for the chronicles. He stuck the golden coin into the small pouch next to his scrolls. For such a small backpack, it contained all the essentials for a traveling chronicler: a leather-bound journal from his Aunt Elda, a telepost box, rolled parchment maps, and most importantly, the guidebook. He lifted the monstrous manual, staring at it with contempt. Contempt, because the Quest Seeker's Guidebook to Proper Questing was the essential reference book for all would-be champions and chroniclers in training alike. It was bestowed upon all enrollees of the Edric Academy by the Questing Information and Text Department, the QITD for short. It contained everything they were supposed to be doing, but because of Tanna, weren't. Again, contempt. Galdefort opened to the first chapter, starting a qualifying quest. He rolled his eyes and made up his own title. How to delude yourself into thinking you'll get a quest request through chores. The second paragraph on the first page read, a first level quest verified by the assisting coordinating abbot and as requested by a quest giver is to investigate a strange occurrence, repel a level 1 monster, refer to Appendix D, Table 2 for appropriate monster levels, or retrieve an item of importance. The third paragraph continued. As such, a Tendersword, level 0 on the scale of would-be champions of the Edric Academy of Valiant Adventurers, shall only attain the level 1 title of Quest Seeker once the first level quest is completed, the chronicle submitted, written by the assigned chronicler in training, and finally approved by the assisting coordinating abbot. For clarification on required chronicle components, refer to First Chronicle Grading Rubric in Appendix B, Form 2.3a. He slammed the book shut and packed it into his turtleshell pack. Nothing about a request for a quest. She's going to be a great champion, a creepy old lady says. Aunt Elda never had to put up with this, even with him as her champion. Not even to chapter 1. We're going to fail. Him, of course, referred to Cobbs the Valiant, the bravest, strongest, most gifted adventurer to graduate from the academy, but his renown was in no small part due to the efforts of his chronicler, Elda Quilpin. His Aunt Elda wrote the grandest tales, the most harrowing adventures, stories that would make kings shake in the night with their tales of danger and intrigue, the stories of a true hero and the villains he vanquished. These were the chronicles of Cobbs the Valiant, Elda Quilpin's everlasting chronicles, living forever in the sacred halls of the scriptorium. Galdefort grew up wanting to be just like her. He even dreamed of having a champion like Cobbs. He was the best of everything a champion of Handover could be, some say rivaling the heroics of Edric Stonewash himself. But even with all this notoriety, Cobbs still hadn't been strong enough to save Elda after she was taken, disappearing in search of her. It had been 1 year since she went missing, 6 months for Cobbs, both forsaking him to the dreary academy and its even drearier abbots, such as Darnicus. Cobbs had failed to protect the only person who cared for him, and now the great champion was gone himself. Galdefort did not think Cobbs to be a champion of Handover any longer. Fopdoodle, he cursed Cobbs quietly. Nothing but a fopdoodle. A gentle breeze blew on the sullen street, the full moon illuminating the slight fog that had billowed into town, uninvited. The mist swirled about him, the earlier bustle of the pig farmers drained away, the town now filled with dead silence. And in that silence, Galdefort lost himself in thought. Aunt Elda, he said, touching the inkstaff she'd given him, I could really use your help with Tanna. Where are you? Here, child, a voice echoed. Galdefort stiffened, looking up and side to side. Who's there? He squeaked. The soft glow of a purplish fog filled the empty streets. Radiating, it curled in swirls about his feet, as if responding to his voice. Here, below, the ghastly voice said again. Galdefort yipped and clutched his inkstaff. The fog now rose to his hips like a river bursting from a dam, ready to sweep him away. His heart throbbed with fear. Go away, he cried. A red-faced farmer with a ratty mustache emerged from the foggy mist, pushing a wheelbarrow full of turnips and mushrooms. A spotted pig followed him, scarfing down on fresh celery and weeds with yellow flowers. Boy, what are you doing out? Didn't you heard the bells? Oh, yes, but you best get inside before the horn blows. Don't want to run into what's-her-name. Well, that's her fog black coming up your skinnies, boy. Before Galdefort could ask if the farmer had seen Tanna, the man smacked the pig's rump, and they scuttled on their way in a quickened pace. Galdefort hefted his turtleshell pack, held his inkstaff in a white-knuckled grip, and hastened toward the Crackpot Inn, which was on the far side of Appin's Way. The purplish fog spread before him as he skittered through the empty street. The squat homes around were now shadows of indistinct purple, nary a light visible in the windows or visible smoke drifting up chimneys. The cobbles underfoot became uneven and uprooted. A single frightening wind whistled through broken glass somewhere in the fog. A door creaked on rusted hinges. Tanna? Nothing. He stepped forward carefully, his chest pounding, the fog moving in frantic circles up to his neck, cupping his hands around his mouth. Tanna? Tanna, the voice repeated, an uncertain echo of spectral words. Galdefort gulped. The voice was coming from the fog. It moved with intent, gathering, rolling into the space before him. Tanna, Tanna, the tone mocking as it said her name. The ghostly haze shot up, forming a wall of swirling mist to the thatched rooftops. Something unseen groaned in the hanging fog, then chittered like a chipmunk or squirrel. Tanna. Then deathly silence. Galdefort's blood pulsed through him, his body frozen, every instinct yelling at him to run, but a thick coat of sweaty terror encased him, paralyzing him. Voices, real, honest-to-goodness voices, pierced the veil of purple shadows. "Gots to be here," one snarly-sounding voice said, like a hissing snake. "I smells him." Him? Galdefort thought. Do they mean me? "Are you sure?" A gruffer, deeper voice boomed. "The charm she cast on her slave smells a certain way." "Is that what I smells, Fecus?" This voice sounded less confident, more dim-witted than the other two. There was a thwack in the purple fog, followed by a hurtful moan. "Her charm has nothing to do with your stink mulch," said the one called Fecus, who sounded like the leader. "Scratch, make yourself useful and find the bird." "This place smells like pork," said the slithery, snaky one named Scratch. "Wait, what's that? No. Ah!" Crash, dong, boom. The commotion reverberated between the houses, the fog swelling as the sounds of heavy fighting took its toll. A door crashed upon something hard, a window shattered, the sharp peal of a blade being drawn from its scabbard, weapons clashing with the sting, a yelp by one of the creatures, a snarl of some mighty beast. "Ow! Hey, get that bird! That's smart, ah!" Crash, whap, boom. The fighting was heartier and angrier. A grunt bellowed as something struck the home Galdefort was standing beside, just out of his sight. He trembled uncontrollably in his leather sandals, holding his ink staff before him, hoping it would protect him from whatever lay beyond the mist. "Ah, it bit me! Grab it, you fools! Stay away, foul, foul!" Slowly, Galdefort backed away from the fighting in the fog. He picked one foot up as quietly as possible and tiptoed from the scene, but a boom, boom, boom caused him to stop dead. The purple fog swirled and wailed. "Run, you fools!" cried Fecus, followed by what sounded like wet, padded feet scampering away. Galdefort braved a peek back the way he'd come. A small silhouette moved behind the thick, foggy wall. A tinny sound punctured the silence. Metal on stone. Tap, tap, tap. His eyes strained to see through the smoky fog, needles in the fingertips of his clenched fist. Whatever approached to knock those foul beasts about was coming closer. Tap, tap, tap. Then it stopped. The feeling of dangerous eyes watching him gripped every nerve, igniting his already lit anxiety into a fervent flame. Who's there?" And then a loud clack roared through the purplish haze. The fog wall shrieked, split, and fell away in a whoosh as if struck by a sudden gust of wind. Its eerie tendrils pulled at Galdefort's tunic as it fled. In the center of the newly cleared street stood a small orange and brown bird with a magnificent red comb. "A rooster?" Galdefort was caught stickily between relieved and confused. The rooster cocked its head, staring at the chronicler in training with one deep purple eye, then the other, its thick wattle swung under its orange beak. Then it clucked again, but this cluck was different, almost like a clucky chuckle. Did you just laugh at me? The rooster looked away with an unmistakable stuck up sneer and hobbled toward an alley between two thatch roofed houses. Tap, tap, tap. And that's when Galdefort saw the source of the tapping. The rooster had a metal peg leg. Wait, he exclaimed, but the peg-legged rooster moved with a surprisingly quick pace. The fog, having seemingly regained its ghastly courage, rolled in with a hiss behind the fowl as it disappeared into the alley. Galdefort forced himself to move, creeping toward the foreboding alley, though he could no longer hear tapping of the bird's peg leg. The pitch-black alley smelled like rotted wood. The cobblestones disappeared into slick, grimy ground. He neither saw nor heard the rooster. Wait, are you the guide? He asked, but then he stopped himself. Oh, stupid Galdefort. How can a rooster be our guide? You've been in this pig town far too long, he admonished himself before cupping his mouth again. Tanna! Tanna! The emboldened fog held within an iridescence like 1,000 glowflies pulsing in blinks of indigo. It gathered in thickness, crawling up the edges of the old house like before, but this time it spread through the space between like a spider web. The purplish lights pulsed in the foggy barrier, splitting into two orbs like eyes. A chittering noise scratched at the air like a rat chewing old bones. Tanna, it whispered. Misty finger-like tendrils wormed out of the fog, writhing and flailing. Galdefort spun to flee, hooves of horses pounding inside his chest, but the foggy fingers washed over him. They grabbed at his tunic, his turtle shell pack, pulling him backwards toward the frightening eyes and the horrible chittering. He gasped as the fog squeezed harder, and when it all seemed hopeless, somehow, some way, his inkstaff, that precious gift from his Aunt Elda, appeared before him. It shone like a beacon of divine light transmitted from the three scribes themselves. The fog squealed at its touch, tendrils recoiling. Ah! Galdefort screamed, and with fear-fueled legs he ran the opposite direction, through muck and fog for an eternity, if not for just a few seconds, when, whop, Galdefort bounced off someone or something straight down into a mud puddle, splashing ick in an all too familiar situation. Galdefort! Tanna reached down for him. Are you okay? She pulled him up and began wiping away the mud. I've been looking for you. Tanna? A loud horn blew, the last warning to get indoors. You left me. Galdefort, you'll never believe it. She jumped up and down, still gripping the addled chronicler in training, his head bobbing side to side. There was something nestled into her arms. It was the peg-legged rooster. And the last thing he heard before passing out from all the falling down, yanking up, head bobbing, and general fear for his life was, I, Tanna the Tendersword, have found our quest request guide. And that's the end of chapter 2. So, looking at the... Hey, guys. So, that's the end of chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed that. I am going to create a bookmark at this point for anyone who wants to go ahead and sign off. I know some folks can only stay for one chapter, but I am going to continue. So chapter 3 is next, and then I will take a look at the chat and see how y'all are doing. Chapter 3, The Cracked Pot Inn. Here we go. Galdefort was awakened by the sweet smell of garden flowers. A figure leaned over him, backlit by an ethereal effervescence, wiping a damp cloth across his aching forehead. You're awake, said a voice crafted by the three scribes themselves. Berna? Yes, it's me. Berna bent. The innkeeper's daughter sat next to him, her tightly curled black hair upswept into a poof. She smiled the most perfect smile as ever could be, her mahogany eyes radiating kindness and caring in the dark room. He tried to sit up, but blood rushed to his head like an empty watering hole filling up after a thunderstorm. Clutching his forehead, he fell back on the pillow. Oh, what happened? We don't know, Berna said, dipping the folded rag into a bowl of warm water before gingerly wiping it across his brow. Constable Cadby found Tanna dragging you back to the inn just after the last bell tolled. Ah, I was attacked, I think. He rubbed the haze away from his eyes. Attacked? Her delicate brows drew together. There was genuine care in her gaze. By who? Gallifort paused. His thoughts were cloudy, foggy. By by the fog blight. What's her name's fog blight? Shh. Berna shushed. We shouldn't mention her. He rose to an elbow. But why? She's just a witch. She's not just a witch, Gallifort. She's an evil sorceress. Well, how bad can she be? She doesn't even have a name. She has a name. Berna glanced around and began to shiver, although the room was quite warm. We don't say her name lest she comes for us. A singer wrote a song about her, but after singing it once in the end, he was never heard from again. For a song? Berna, I'm a chronicler. I have to know the facts. What is her name? Berna sighed, wiping his forehead one last time. Smiling, she began to sing softly. Your spirit she doth capture, your contentment she doth claim. She is the thistle in the willow, she is the Dwemer wraith. What's her name? A strange feeling settled over Gallifort as Berna finished singing. It wasn't a bad feeling, far from it. In fact, it was a good feeling, magical even. It was almost as if every word she sang, he could visualize it, almost as if seeing and feeling it as if he were there. That's not that bad. Berna smiled weakly. The fog blight came. It overtook the inn, and everyone inside fell asleep. When we came to, the singer was gone, along with the fog. She dabbed his forehead with the rag. You're lucky to be alive. That was very dangerous for you. But I still don't know her name. The song didn't say. Shh. Her gentle care erased any trace of his headache, but he also felt his cheeks redden. The maiden of the Cracked Pot Inn was a few summers older and had far better things to do than to care for someone like him. Fine. Where's Tanna? They're all downstairs, waiting for you. Berna helped him off the bed and handed him his zinc staff. He managed a nervous half-smile as they walked out of the room. Then, like a hammer to an anvil, Tanna's never-ending happy yapping from downstairs pounded away at his somewhat decent mood and replaced it with a headache fiercer than before. The thought of dealing with Tanna's upbeatness after having almost been eaten by a fog monster was more than he could stand. Gallifort finally made it to the bottom of the stairs, but only with Berna's considerable urging. The would-be champion was jumping up and down, holding a broom like a sword, slicing it at an imagined enemy. She was regaling a story to a person who could best be described as an overfed bear man wearing an overcoat that was decorated by a silver brooch with an elaborate eagle etched on it. He was Constable Cadby Upton, Appinway's only lawman and professional food connoisseur. Bartleby Bent was leaning upon the inn's main bar top, washing pewter mugs with a rag. He looked every bit a typical innkeeper with a big barrel belly, stained apron, and peppery gray whiskers with no hair above his ears or on his jaw. Once upon a time, he'd been a quester of the Edric Academy, but became a Haven housemaster after a dangerous quest involving Meagles, one that left him with a nasty limp in his left leg. Gallifort had seen pictures of the fierce stone men in the guidebook, and Bartleby was very brave to fight off a throng of them. Propped upon a table sat the peg-legged rooster. It was snoring softly into its wattle. And what happened next? Tanna said to the constable, asking the question for him as he gnawed on one of Bartleby's famous pork chops. Well, Cobbs returned to town to find the magistrate was indeed filling his pockets with the hard-earned alms of the people. Gadafort's lip tightened. She's talking about that fop doodle again. You don't say, the constable added, the newly picked clean bone to the considerable stack of pork chop bones on his plate, and then proceeded to crunch on a bit of baked apple tart he snagged from Bartleby's hand-over-renowned late-night treat tray. He gave a hungry gaze toward the sleeping rooster. I do say, Tanna continued, on her tiptoes now, Cobbs was most upset. He marched through the broken-down houses straight up to the gold-lined mansion of the magistrate. Face determined, he drew forth his mighty sword, that Stormfire in case you forgot, and stood ready when a sudden rumbling happened and the ground shook. Several vine-like tentacles broke through the dirt, weaving themselves around the house like a living fence. The magistrate was a sorcerer. He was a Talaric. Curse the Talaric! Tanna spit after the curse, followed by Cadby, Bartleby, and Berna, all spitting in disgust at the vile sorcerers and sorceresses of the Talaric, a hated relic of a war long forgotten. The would-be champion swung the broom as if slashing the fake vines. Stormfire raised before him. Cobbs chopped all the vines away and arrested the magistrate. Godefort finished, his joyless tone deflating the energy-filled room. He knew the story, of course. Cobbs and the Sorcerers of the West was one of Aunt Elda's most famous chronicles. The sorcerer wasn't a Talaric, Tanna. You know the Talaric were defeated 1,000 years ago by the Edric champions. It was just a plain old bad sorcerer that stupid Cobbs defeated. The rooster opened its purple eyes and crowed. Godefort hopped back, eyeing the bizarre peg-legged bird. Godefort! Tanna dashed across the slatted floor and gave him a hug that would squash a melon. My favorite chronicler, you're alive! Touching me, Godefort gritted, stiffening his back. And I'm your only chronicler. You're lucky she found you when she did, Constable Cadby said, patting Godefort's back. Godefort twitched. Got reports of the fog blight being out tonight, so I was out making sure everybody was indoors. Yeah, I know, Godefort muttered as he scooted out from under Tanna's and the constable's persistent need to touch him. You ain't got the experience to fight it like I do. The constable puffed up like a bird, popping a silver button off his overcoat. Godefort ducked as it whizzed by, but Tanna caught it, handing it back to the oblivious lawman. Thank you. And I don't need you two out there stirring up trouble after 6 chimes. Ain't Bartleby told you to stay inside? Thank you for your concern, Gabby, Bartleby said from behind the bar. Berta and I will remind them of the rules. Then I'll let you to it. Cabby took another tart and stuffed it in his mouth. Never had no trouble from your charges before, he said through the mouthful of dessert. And you won't miss this time neither, Constable. Good night. Constable Cadby Upton harumphed and, taking his handheld lantern, peeked out the inn's door, the faint light held before him. As he left, he mumbled loud enough for Godefort to hear. That's what happens when you let kids be quest-seeking. Nothing but trouble, nothing but trouble. Bartleby pointed to a table. You two, sit. Now. Tanna pranced to the table, sitting quickly and fidgeting in place. Godefort moped over next to her and plopped down. The Haven House master stood over them, his burly arms crossed, the genial happiness normally lighting up his whiskery cheeks replaced by a menacingly angry glow. What in the 3 scribes were you two doing out after 6 chimes? Looking for a quest? Tanna chirped. Looking for her? Godefort croaked. And I found one, sir, Tanna started. I meant it of all the fool things. Bartleby placed his fist on his hips, his slate gray eyes at once infuriated and concerned. The fog blight's out there. What's her name could have taken you? Sorry, sir, the quester said in unison. Bartleby slapped his rag over his shoulder, sitting heavily in a booth. Fine Haven House master I am. My 2 charges get snatched up before they even got a proper quest. It ain't happening on my watch, I tell you. Berta, the book. The maiden of the crackpot inn brought over a thin, string-bound book in inkwell, humming the entire time. Written on the cover in leather-stamped letters was Haven House Accounts and Activities. Brenna placed the book on the bar top and took a seat. She dipped a black feathered quill into the small ceramic inkwell and began writing in the book, still humming. Godifort, get out your guidebook, Bartleby said. Godifort was staring at Brenna while she hummed, feeling lost in her wordless song. The Haven House master snapped his sausage fingers, so Godifort shook his head and opened his turtle shell pack, unpacking the heavy tome. It made a loud thunk on the tabletop. Brenna, what page? Brenna smiled nervously. Chapter 2, titled The Haven House. Godifort slowly opened the book as Tanna peered over his shoulder. Do you mind? Sorry, Tanna slipped back, but Godifort could still feel her eyes on the page. He flipped the stiff parchment to a page with thick, black, fancy letters spelling out the chapter title. Underneath that, in smaller but just as fancy lettering, Rules, Guidelines, and Procedures, RGP, for staying at your Questing Point's Haven House. He's on the page, blurted Tanna. What now, sir? Brenna pointed with her quill tip. Find the box and read aloud the words within. Godifort began to read. The would-be champion and chronicler in training are guests of the assigned Haven House. As representatives of the Edric Academy of Valiant Adventurers, you must follow any rules, guidelines, and procedures, RGP, set forth by the Haven House Master. Failure to do so may nullify all progress towards a first quest and warrant automatic return to the Academy for panel review and reassignment. Godifort gulped. What does that mean? Tanna's face was scrunched in what Godifort could only describe as a thinking face. It means, young champion, Bartleby said, that I'm about to let the Academy know I got some rule breakers on my hands and to send out the QRU for pickup. QRU? Tanna looked upward in hard thought, her thinking face morphing into deep contemplation face. The Question Retrieval Unit, Godifort said with a look that could kill. Ah, that QRU. What QRU did you think he was talking about? Didn't you study this book at all? Godifort motioned at the guidebook with two open palms. The rooster gave a cluck that sounded like someone clearing their throat to make a point. Well, I was going to get around to it, but questing for a quest is hard work, Tanna said, looking at the rooster perched on the tabletop. Enough, Bartleby barked. You both have some serious explaining to do, being out after 6 chimes, and I don't want to hear about this fang-done rooster. Oh, well, sir, Godifort started. I was out looking for Tanna because I got a letter in my telepost box from the Academy. He pulled out a small wooden box with a grass-green gem atop the lid and placed it on the table. He pressed the gem, and out came the mud-stained letter that had set him on this afternoon to forget. Read it aloud. Brenna, take notes, as this might just save the questers from the QRU, if they're lucky. Godifort unfolded the letter. Awaiting a qualifying quest from Tanna the Tendersword, level 0. Please indicate if the Tendersword or assigned chronicler in training needs assistance and return via telepost box. Qualifying quests must be submitted within 3 days for course credit eligibility and gifting of 1 Elmstone Triad piece. Response to this note is required by sunset tomorrow. Assistant Coordinating Abbot Darnicus. Darnicus? Puh, Bartleby spit. That old skin flant. Too big for his puffy britches, if you ask me. Yes, but Puffy Britches expects an answer by tomorrow, and Tanna doesn't have a quest. The rooster, all but forgotten, crowed and clucked, tapping its metal peg leg on the table. Everyone looked over. The rooster fanned out its wings, then settled back down, immediately falling asleep. But Godifort, Tanna said, with an oblivious lack of volume control. We do have a quest, a request for a quest, remember? What's this about? Asked the Haven House Master. That's what I was trying to tell you. A mysterious woman by the name of Old Lady Sage said to find Wink the Wildcrafter. It's she who has a quest for us. We just need to find our guide, and that rooster is the one, I tell you. Bartleby rubbed his sausage fingers along his unwhiskered chin. Wink, you say? That name sounds mighty familiar. She's a seer, father, Bruno said. The one out in the Dwimmerleaf forest. Dwimmerleaf! Bartleby exclaimed. No way in the world are you two going out there. Not with me as your Haven House master. If you two even think about going to the Dwimmerleaf forest, by the 3 scribes, I'll have the QRU here to snatch you up quicker as boiled asparagus. What's in the Dwimmerleaf forest, sir? Galliford asked. If Bartleby was this worked up about the simple forest 2 days north of Appin's Way, Galliford wanted no part of this quest. It sounded way too dangerous for a couple of beginners. Only the foulest beasts imaginable. You step foot in there, and you'll be mincemeat for some creature's pot pie dinner. Besides, that's where old what's-her-name makes her lair. I'll not have you two get sorcered up in that, not if I have any say in the matter. But the land of Handover is at stake, Tanna pleaded. Old Lady Sage said we had to find Wink. What did she say, Galliford? It's in your book belt. Belt book, he corrected, opening it to the page stained with inky squiggles. She said, and I quote, but you must hurry. The land of Handover depends upon the fulfillment of her request. Her meaning Wink the Wildcrafter. See, sir, it's a request for a quest, and we already have our guide. Tanna pointed to the slumbering rooster. He's going to lead us to Wink. We can't worry about what's-her-name. Shh! Bartleby snapped. Don't mention her, girl. You'll bring her curse down upon you. Gallifort stared ruefully at the stained letter. We should listen to him, Tanna. He's the Haven House master for a reason. I don't like the sound of this, and I most certainly did not enjoy the feel of the fog blight on my skin. Gallifort felt a chill run up and down his spine like someone tuning a piano in remembrance. Gave me the shivers. The fog blight touched you? Bartleby's eyes bulged. Yes, sir, and it was all because of that stupid rooster. One purplish eye opened, and Gallifort could have swore it winked at him. I followed it down an alley, and that's when the fog came at me. I also heard voices inside the fog. Based on Bartleby's overly concerned reaction, he decided to stop his story there. Come here. Bartleby took Gallifort's head in his massive hands and examined him, spreading one of the poor chronicler in training's eyes wide open with his calloused fingers, looking for something unsaid. He sighed and let go, Gallifort shrinking away like a wilted mushroom. Oh, thank the 3 scribes you didn't get the fog eyes. You're one lucky little boy. That's how what's-her-name snatches people. Gallifort nearly choked. Snatched? Takes over a person's body with that blasted fog blight, giving them fog eyes. It washes over you, and next thing you know, you're walking out of town in the middle of the night, and nobody knows a califfy pick and lick about where you've gone. What do you think happened to all those people on the south side of town? They got the fog eyes and left. That sounds terrible, Tanna said in her oblivious way. Thank the 3 scribes that didn't happen to you, my chronicler. That's why I told you never to go out after 6 chimes. He limped over to them, standing over them like a huge oak towering over 2 tiny saplings. Now you listen to me straight. You ever disobey my rules again, and I'll tie you up and ship you on the next wagon back to the academy quicker than you can say piggledy-pink. You understand me? But what about my quest request? Find yourself another quest, girl, the Haven House master responded. No more of this Dwimmerleaf nonsense, you hear? I'll write High Abbot Abelard about the peg-leg rooster here and have him send a proper Edric champion if this quest is as important as this old lady Sage says. After I find her, that is. But no buts, child. Off to bed with you now. Bartleby huffed toward his daughter with a dragging left leg, a stark reminder of quests gone wrong. What are you waiting for? Me to bring you slippers and milk? He pointed to the stairs. Get on up there now. The 2 questers quickly made for the stairs, Tanna grabbing the sleeping rooster from the table. The fowl made a series of soft clucks, to which the girl nodded enthusiastically, like she understood what the bird was saying. At the base of the stairs, Tanna nudged Gallifort with her elbow. Fear not, chronicler. My questing sense tells us everything will be okay. She turned toward Bartleby. I'll find another quest, Sir Haven House Master, and I'll make sure my chronicler mentions you fondly when my Tenacious tale is published. With that, The would-be champion raced up the steps, clutching the rooster to her chest, humming a sing-songy tune while the fowl clucked away. Gallifort rolled his eyes and judged himself up the stairs, resigned to the fact that his throbbing headache was there to stay for the long term. All righty. That's the end of chapter 3. I hope y'all enjoyed that reading. I'm going to go back through the chat and see who's all here. Hey, Tim and Soup. I know you, Soup. Willoway, that's Bill. Willoway Press, that's Bill. Hey, Tim McKay, hello. Glad y'all can come. Yes, Narratus Grumpicus. Yeah, it's a bit of Roadrunner humor there. Let's see. Yes, Pegs. This is the introduction of Pegs in chapter 2. Let's see. Well, do y'all have any questions or anything for the chapters? Mike, hello. Oh, I'm sorry you're late. Hello, Alex. No, I can't read anymore. My throat's kind of going out. But I did hope y'all enjoyed that. It's more of a dramatization, I guess, than a just straight ahead reading. But if y'all like this, we might continue. So I might throw out a poll there to see if this is something worth your interest. If you did miss, if you did come in late, this will be it is recorded. It's going to be on the YouTube. So if y'all don't have any more questions, then I'm going to say good night, and we will see you next time. All right. Bye-bye, y'all.